Conan, did you watch Crown Jewel?
Yes.
Okay, so they open up very. This is stadium show, and the setup looked great. Very a lot of money put in this. With the Saudis, they spent a lot of money on this. So that's they obviously there's no they got an open checkbook to put this show on. Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley was the first match. Lashley's, I guess, is turning heel. Lashley jumped Brock before the match and ran him into the ring steps, and Brock sold his knee hitting the steps, which created the storyline for the match. Okay, so right off the bat, Brock is fighting from underneath. And they did this too. This to me is very. I can't stand this. A guy jumps out of the ring and attacks the guy before the match, and they start fighting. And they just ring the bell. There's got to be kind of a thing where you stop and hey, because bro, when any combat, could you imagine if the boxers went in the ring, a guy went over and punched the guy in the back of the head, they just say, hey, let's start the fight? That just seems like a thing they do. That's a professional wrestling thing that I just never have been a big fan of. I think the heel should go to attack the guy before the match. He ducks out of the way, and the ref rings the bell because the guy ducked, and they start the match. So,
well, here's a Crown Jewel / WWE in Saudi Arabia stat here. WWE's made $400 million for 8 trips to Saudi Arabia, right?
Wow.
Now, that $400 million they made from 8 trips is more money than all the WrestleManias put together made the company.
Wow.
So.
And they're wondering, people could sit there and virtue signal, how can you go to Saudi Arabia? It's dude, the talent is making massive money, and that's what most of the talent is in this business for. I don't think they mind. Good. So basically, Lashley had Brock down. Had him hurt. Gave him a spear on the floor. Brock took a number. Bro, Brock is a great. If you watch Brock's work,
phenomenal.
The way he sells the bumps, he is an excellent worker.
Yeah.
You really don't. But I don't think people really appreciate it. They think he's just kind of like a big shooter type guy. But bro, he works. And his facials are excellent. He's just an excellent professional wrestler.
Yeah, and his bumps, they stand out too. They're different looking. His bump over the top is phenomenal. Right. Phenomenal.
So basically, Brock was selling his knee, tried to give us an F5, couldn't get him up. But then finally did get him up and gave him an F5. He gave him a couple Germans too, but was selling the knee. Then basically. Lashley slipped away. Lesnar cut off and went for another S5. Lashley slipped away, put him down with a spine buster. Then Lashley caught him in the hurt lock. I don't want to give up, told the referee, and dropped to one knee. Then he showed signs of life, kind of hulked up, and he powered his way to the corner, climbed up the corner with his legs, and kicked his legs out. So he fell backwards on top of Lashley and held Lashley's arms together with Lashley under him and pinned him 1, 2, 3. After the match, Lashley acts surprised and he put him in the hurt lock again and then laid him out. So it's good heat on Lashley here. What'd you think of this, Konnan? 6 minutes, short and sweep of good big man match, and brother, those guys look great working with each other. You got Lashley looks fantastic. He's huge. It's just a good big man match.
Great opening spectacle. They look like two monsters. They look like stars. They act like stars. They come off like stars. Put him through the barricade, which got a huge pop. Like you said, he attacked him before he actually got into the ring by shoving him into the steel steps. I like how they protected Lashley with that finish. Good match.
Yeah. Good video in Survivor Series to Black Sabbath's War Pigs. I like that. So I fast forwarded to this next match. I don't care. So next is Asuka and Alexa versus Dakota Kai and Io Sky for the women's tag titles. I fast forwarded to the end. I guess Nikki Cross interfered for the bad girls and attacked Bliss, rolled out of the ring, and the heels won. And I was like, whatever. I'm not interested in this, so I fast forwarded through this. If you got a comment on it, let me know.
This is way better gear than the whack they were before. I haven't been interested in any of these four individually or collectively. This was no exception. Not much heat.
Mm-hmm.
As usual, every match had a great video package. Nice name for what's this girl's name? Asuka, Empress of Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Kross versus Drew. Big man match. They clobber each other, throwing each other in the fences, everything. I got to call Kross. There's one thing he does that I don't like. When you go to when a guy ducks a punch, you got to throw the punch. like throw it with wild abandon and make the guy duck it. Kevin doesn't do that. I got to talk to him about that. A lot of guys don't do that. Like, like when you shoot a guy for the clothesline, if you watch it, like to this, I've always, when the guy's ducking my clothesline, I swing as hard as I can to make it look like I'm trying to take the guy's head off. Too many guys just kind of stick their arm out there and the guy just goes under it. It didn't look like they were trying to hit him. I think that's the thing that you just got. That's a bad habit that a lot of guys have that you need to consciously correct because you're going to keep doing it and it doesn't look good.
Real quick, Disco, can you tell me what the world is coming to? We now have a verified Mike Durbin on Twitter. How does that happen? How does something like that?
Yeah, who cares? I don't care about verification on Twitter because I'm not trying to go out there and gain a bunch of followers and stuff. I just post.
Yeah, it's not going to be necessary too if they start making people verify their identity. You know what I mean? So that there couldn't be fake Glenn Gilbertis anymore.
Right. So McIntyre, cross-ported Junde Saito, ducked the cross hammer, came right back with the Future Shock DDT. Scarlett distracted him, climbed the cage on the ring apron, and shook it, and Kross took advantage and applied a sleeper. He released a hold and hit McIntyre with the cross hammer. He tried to escape but climb over the top of the cage, but McIntyre went to the top rope and ended up performing a superplex off from the top. That looked pretty good. The crowd the crowd was into this pretty good too. McIntyre had referee Dan Engler open the cage door, and Scarlett sprayed a substance to the eyes of McIntyre and the referee outside the ring. Kross crawled and opened the door, but McIntyre caught him and applied an ankle lock. He eventually kicked him away and came right back with a big kick. This is a good sequence right here. He kicked him off, and McIntyre came right back with the Claymore kick. Scarlett closed the door and locked it, and then taunted McIntyre by holding the key. Then McIntyre tried to go over the top of the cage. While she was doing this, Scarlett unlocked the cage door, and Kross tried to crawl out, but McIntyre dropped the floor before Kross got out, and McIntyre won the match. So that was actually a good finish. This is a basic cage match, and if you can't bleed, what are you really going to do? So I thought this is pretty good. What'd you think?
Yeah, that kills it. No blood. This was way better. They put on a hell of a fight, bro. Scarlett prevented McIntyre from escaping the cage by spraying him. They did the old Kevin tried to go out through the door while the other guy climbed over the top gimmick, and he climbed out first. But they protected Kevin. This was a good match.
Yeah. Like I said, the thing of this match, this is two big guys, and they both sell the other guy's stuff very well. So that's the thing. And
it was physical.
Right. And a lot of the criticism these guys get is like, they don't do much. It's like, well, if you got big guys hitting you and doing things to you, you're going to sell it more than like a smaller guy. And that's what big guys, they both sold very well here. I would say both of them oversell, which is good because you should be overselling because there's not a lot of selling these days, and overselling looks like real selling, So Roman, Paul, and Uso and Solo pull up in an SUV. And he asked and Saxon asked Reigns if he had any response to Logan Paul saying it only takes one lucky punch, and Reigns walked away. Then Solo glared at him, then shoved the mic away. And Heyman mocked the one lucky punch line. So I like Solo. So next we get the OC against Finn and them, and this is fine, but like I found myself fast forwarding and stopping because these guys have been on TV wrestling each other for a few weeks now, like in one iteration or another. So it's just, I want to kind of see what the finish was going to be. Styles was getting ready to set up for a phenomenal forearm, but Ripley pulled him off the apron and dropped him face first on the apron. This is an interesting line. Cole said, somebody's got to kick her ass. And then Balor hit the coup de grace on Styles and pinned him. Okay. So the bad guys went over here with Dominic and all that. They looked – everything I saw in this match looked good. But I thought that was an interesting line. Somebody's got to kick her ass. So they're probably going to be bringing in somebody to deal with Rhea Ripley here, I imagine, which we saw on Monday.
Yeah.
What did you think of this, Konnan? Isn't that crazy that Dominic made his debut in the pandemic, and here he is like a year and a half later or 2 years later, and he's wrestling in Qatar or Saudi Arabia,
right,
in front of a stadium show.
This was a good match. People were really into like like they saw AJ and Finn as stars, and they really got into them when they were in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
Good selling by Dom again, by the way.
Yes, he's very good at that. Which is good for him because he's smaller in stature, which means he should be selling more than other guys, So he does very well. Braun versus Omos. This was good. Big man match. He did the test of strength and stuff, but it worked, And Omos was beating him up. I mean, this is the most Braun Strowman's probably ever sold in a match, and they were selling that he was the small man and Omos was the big man. And I like the way that he was just getting beat up and kind of like Omos made a mistake and threw him in the corner, went to go run him into the corner, and he moved and he came out and he just caught him and he picked him up in that power slam and he beat him. Like kind of like a fluky, lucky win, which is it. Like I said, Omos took a step forward in this match. This was definitely the best match Omos has had by far. Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah. Next was the Usos against Ridge Holland and Butch for the title. I'm going to go back and watch this because I fast forwarded through this, but I heard it was pretty good. But I just watched the finish because I knew they were going to win. But Butch caught Jay with a kick, and Jimmy made this is a good finish, okay? He caught Jay with a kick, but Jimmy made the blind tag, and Butch went to the ropes, and Jay hit him with a super kick and then joined him on the ropes. Then Jay grabbed Butch and lowered him into 1D from Jimmy in the ring, and Jimmy covered Butch and got the 3 count. It was a good finishing sequence there. They always nail the Usos matches. They always nail the finish, and the finish is always really good. You notice that?
Yep.
Yeah. So next was Bianca versus Bayley. I do not care about this. I fast forward it. You got any comment about this, Konnan? I guess Bianca goes over. She plays Bayley inside the open ladder that was laying on the mat and wedged a chair under the bottom rope, and Bayley was unable to escape before the referee's 10 count.
First of all, this was very, very long.
Yeah, 20 minutes.
They used a lot of smoke and mirrors, ladder, candlestick. They fought on top of a golf cart. She pulled her braid off the golf cart so she could go through a table. The table didn't break. It's kind of clumsy, awkward. I wasn't a big fan of this.
So I did not miss anything.
No.
Okay. So now Bray comes out, and he said he comes from a very prestigious wrestling family. He said he might say that it was even larger than life. He said he wanted to be great since he was a young child, and he said he wasn't great enough. He wanted to be greater than all of them. Wyatt said he did what he thought he needed to do, and he said he gave in. He said he made a monster of himself, and he said it didn't take him long to figure out that he was no longer afraid and no longer felt pain when he was wearing his mask. He said some might say the sensations felt good, and he said he found himself in a kingdom of nothingness. He said the monster destroyed him and ran off everyone. He said he was alone and had nowhere to run. A "We love you" chant broke out. Wyatt said the thing is that no one loves him. He said people love the idea of him and the things he's capable of. He says, I don't even love me, Wyatt said. And he added that it doesn't have to be the ending of his story. Wyatt said that's not the man he wants to be remembered as. My name is Bray Wyatt. And Wyatt said it 3 times. And he said he wants to rewrite the ending to his story. Then a video played on the big screen. And the Uncle Howdy character asked why wear a mask. He said it must hurt forcing yourself to be someone you're not. Howdy said you can't fool him and question who knows Wyatt better than he does. And Howdy said Wyatt will give in, and when he does, he wants to remember how good it feels. He said if you're worried about the aftermath, hurt them, just don't take the mask off, Howdy said. Tell me I'm wrong. Like I said, this is just the same stuff over and over, and I'm starting to lose a little bit of interest in it until we find out. What did you think of this?
Yeah, kind of dragged.
Yeah. Logan Paul comes out with against Roman Reigns. I said on this show that I was interested in this because I thought that Logan Paul, I was interested to see, and I was sure that Logan Paul would put what were my exact words, Joe? Spectacular performance, right?
Spectacular was the word, yeah.
I thought this was a spectacular performance for again his 3rd match ever. He absolutely does not look like anybody that looks like he's had his 3rd match. This match was late. It was a long match. This is a main event on a pay-per-view. Okay, 24 minutes. I like the smoke and mirrors from this, okay? So Logan came to the show, he had his buddies with him, his buddies from the podcast and stuff, right? So this is kind of funny. So Logan's kind of acting kind of he's on offense, and basically Logan follows Reigns to the floor and cleared the broadcast table, okay? So he took one of his buddies was in front right. He took a drink from one of his buddies who was in the crowd. Then he took a cell phone from his other buddy, and he brought it to the ring with him and played to the crowd. So he's like, just got the cell phone. And he held the phone up as he went to the top rope, and he laid Roman on the announcer's table. And he performed a frog splash that drove Reigns to the table. And Logan played this on his social media with the POV from his camera that he did in that shot. The guy's just very, very smart. To do that. It looks super cool. So this was hysterical. So Jey Uso and Jimmy Uso ran out to check on him. And then they pulled Roman's buddies over the barricade and beat him up. And this was a good beating because it reminded me of the remember when Briscoe and Patterson used to beat up the
Mean Street Posse.
The Mean Street Posse.
Yeah.
That was like this. So this looked good because the guys were selling like they were getting beat up, and the Usos looked like they were laying it in, even though they weren't. But this was a good beating, right? So then Jimmy brought one of them in the ring and super kicked him, and Jay, who only had his fingers taped, brought the other buddy in the ring and was super kicked and tossed him back to ringside. So they just beat up Logan Paul's buddies, which is a good spot. I think the crowd liked that, right? So then Jake Paul makes his entrance, and he entered the ring with the Usos, and then he bro, if you could like, that's the problem. It's like you need more training to learn how to throw a punch and make it look good, because this kind of looked, a little like he threw 2 punches at him. That did look good. But the whole concept of his brothers coming in and not take the Usos out, whatever, so that was good. So then he rolls Roman in the ring and does another frog splash, and basically he hits it for near fall. Solo's music plays, and he heads to the ring with a black towel over his head, and Jake stood at the bottom of the ramp and stuck a fighter's pose. But Adam Pearce and the other producers and referees ran out to keep them apart, and the Usos approached Jake from behind. Then Logan, they do this so brilliantly, then Logan comes up and does a dive onto the Usos, and they turn around at the last second because they didn't see him coming, right? So then Logan comes in the ring, and he gets hit with a Superman punch and spear for the win, and Roman beats him. And then Reigns was selling his jaw because, Logan had hit him a couple times and he was selling. So, but I thought this was excellent. Really, really, another pay-per-view that WWE did that has really good entertainment. What'd you think?
Yeah, I just thought that Roman did a great job of carrying Paul. Paul did a great job of really looking great. He took a lot of risk. He proved to the people that he's just not some flash-by-night guy that's just trying to make a name, but he really likes wrestling. Roman, really sold for him, which he had to make him credible. Yeah, his brother's punches looked really bad. This was very well done. This is very well done, and I like the drones they were using in the show. I like the first time when Paul took him down. The look on Roman's face was great. Mm-hmm. He came to do business, and he did.
Right. What I think is
really
great.
Good.
This is what I think is great about Logan Paul. How many matches he had? 3.
Right.
He's kind of got his own little signature little spot now.
Right.
When he does that leapfrog.
Right.
And he kicks his legs out real wide and stuff, like nobody else does it like that, right? So he just and that's been, bro. It's like I said, this guy's just he gets it, It's like, yeah, that was very, very.
And we needed
impressed.
a breath of fresh air like him with new ideas and new ways of doing things. So I welcome his addition.
Yeah. So that was our crown jewel review.
Enjoy the rest of the show. Boom. Yo, what up? This is Konnan, and I host Keeping It 100, my co-host, Disco Inferno, unfortunately.
Well, I'd say you're my co-host.
Listen, every Thursday here on Spreaker, we talk pro wrestling, sports, movies, music, TV, pop culture, and some politics. It's everything the rest of the pro wrestling podcasts are not.
Tune in to hear myself, the superior one, educate and inform.
Tune in to hear me bury Disco.
That's very disrespectful.
Join us every Thursday on Spreaker and keep it 100. Boom!